right, so our goals for today, our workshop goals. First, we want to identify our values. What are values? And then how can we speak using our values? Second one is to develop our story, to be talking about politics in a personal way. How does politics walk into our life, walk into our living room, walk into our bodies, walk into our wallets, right? How can we articulate politics in those terms? And then finally, identifying your network to speak to others that you know in a very intentioned way. So first piece of talking politics might seem a little, counterintuitive. Before you talk to anybody, you first want to do what I call homework. This is your self-reflection. So you first want to be looking in a mirror, and you want it to be really being able to understand why you care, why this is so important to you, and to be able to articulate that. So actually practice it. Know, the words that you are going to say. So there's 4 steps to this. The first one is to be talking about what are those core values, and we'll go into detail about how to uncover what those core values are. The next time is to recall a time that you felt those values. This is your personal story. So tell a personal story about how you felt those values at some point in your life. The next one is to share those values and how they are reflected in a campaign or cause that you're working on. It's go time. It's 2022. It might be February, but I hope you all kind of already feel that sense of urgency that we need to take action for these campaigns in 2022. So yeah, talk about those values in terms of those campaigns and causes that you are helping. And then finally, I already mentioned that the urgency, you want to express that urgency, tell people why this is so important, that they act, and they act now. So inviting people to act alongside you, again, that increases that participation, to ask them, invite them to come along with you, and to give them that sense of urgency of now. So we're going to walk through this, walk through these steps. And you'll have a chance to, in chat, be sharing as we go along. So we're gonna fill out this simple script that you can think about when you're trying to come up with what should I say, coming up with that, how do you articulate this? So very simple. You're going to start with saying, I feel blank. And you're going to say it. You're going to say what that feeling is going on inside you. You're going to say those words. So I feel blank because, and then you're going to insert your core value. We're going to go through and we're going to work to find what those core values that are driving you. What are they? Come up with those words so we can say that word. So you're going to say, I feel blank because my core value is important to me, and this affects my life because, and then we're going to share that personal story. So we're going to walk through step by step, you coming up with these 3 pieces to fill in this very basic script. So in the chat, let's start off with the easy one. I feel blank. How do you feel tonight? That lovely day. It's 2/22/22, March 22nd, 2022. How are you feeling on this night? And let us hear it. Right? Just feel it. What are you feeling tonight? So go ahead, type it into chat, and Terry will let us know.
How you guys tired. Yeah. Ben's feeling motivated.
Oh, I like it.
Terry's feeling worried because fairness is important to me, and I'm worried about education in my state. Will students be treated fairly? We have a lot going on here in Indiana. Barbara mentioned encouraged, Charlotte apprehensive, Michelle, I feel worried about Ukraine, otherwise happy. Jennifer is excited. Dana is very concerned about democracy. Shelley, apprehensive, and Zachary, tired because I've been doing a lot of calling for Claudia Zapata, am I saying that correctly? Campaign. And what was it again, Ina? Feeling pretty good about getting nervous about the midterms with the possible impending full invasion of Ukraine. Donna, I feel determined. Ryan, energized, lots going on with good opportunities, but also stress from basic Indiana and Ukraine.
Mhm.
It's Zapatas. That's how you pronounce. Thanks, Zachary. Ina is, and the death of democracy. Yeah, that can bring us down a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean,
As
feel
Ryan
that
says,
way.
that's just a tiny thing that we're dealing with right now. COVID and the death of democracy. So
Yeah. So, it's like share those real feelings. Though the point is to be authentic. It's not to go out there and just put on a happy face for people to get them involved in politics. I say we need to reflect people back at them. That means being true to how you're feeling. So I'm glad to see how many people are feeling excited and motivated. And I really love to hear that people are making those phone calls. By the way, these techniques are to be used when making phone calls. Actually, next week, our conversations at Breakthrough take these same principles and apply them to phone banking and text banking and doing that direct voter outreach. So thank you so much for doing that work. But a little bit different from you guys, I am just angry. Just mad. I'm just mad all the time. So and I'm not afraid to say it, that I'm just angry. I'm angry at the state of affairs. And, I really do demand that things are different. So thank you so much for sharing your feelings. And now we're going to go into something that might be a little bit harder to discern. That is your values. So you might have heard people talk about values or core values, but what exactly does that mean? How do you find what your core values are? So what are values, first of all? So values are things that have value. They are things that are important to you. So values are not your morals, and values are not issues or policy. They're what's underneath. They're what's in your gut. It's what's driving you. All right. And these are core to everybody. So these feelings that are in our gut, we might interpret them a little differently depending on who we are. But if you say a core value, everyone understands that. So a core value is something like security. It's like freedom. These are things that we feel in our gut. And like I said, different people might interpret them differently, but if you say the word security, they will understand why it would be important to you. All right, so we're going to then go a little bit further into what those values are. So again, they are not issues or policies. We're going to use this example to show you what we mean. So an issue that could be something that's super important to you is economic inequality. And I sure hope that economic inequality is an issue that is important to you. And that's great. It is important. A policy could be something like raising the minimum wage. And again, I hope that that raising the minimum wage is important to you. But we want to talk about what underneath, when you dig down, when you think about economic inequality, when you're digesting those feelings, what is it? Why do you feel that way? So let's walk through that slowly. So we're going to dig down. We're going to dig down on that issue of economic inequality. So think about it. How does that make you feel? And then why do you feel that way? So for me, like I said, I'm angry. So when I think about economic inequality, I get angry. And for me, I think it's just our right. Our right is this is freedom, liberty, justice for all, right? That is just core to what I think it is to be an American. So when there's economic inequality, when there isn't that equity, then I just think that's wrong. And that is, because at the core, I believe that is, that equity is freedom. So you can have different interpretations if you're not so angry like I am. A lot of people are motivated by justice. They'll say it's not fair. It's not fair that, one person will earn more than others for the same work. That's not fair. And then that underneath, you're talking, justice, you're talking equity underneath. So each one of us, like I said, will feel something different when we hear economic inequality. But then that core value, if we can speak to it in terms of core value, it's something then when you speak that way, everyone's going to be able to understand. You might not agree with me that raising the minimum wage is a way to is a good policy that you want to see. And there could be people out there that may not care about economic inequality, but there are going to be a heck of a lot more people that are going to care about freedom. So if I lead by talking, one, that I'm angry, and two, freedom is important to me, I'm going to get a lot of heads nodding along with me. And that's important, to start the conversation off in a way that people are going to nod their head. You're not starting off with something that could divide them by talking about a policy like raising the minimum wage. You're going to start off with you making something that they are going to agree with you on. And that is, I am angry and freedom is important to me. All right. So there's a lot of values underneath, a lot of core values. This is just a handful of core values. So there's a ton of core values that could be when you say, I feel whatever, I feel motivated, I feel whatever that feeling is that you shared earlier, dig down beyond that and try and find, is this like, apply that to an issue or policy, and then think about what is underneath that is driving you. What is that thing that's super important to you? If you start a conversation saying, I feel, and whatever your emotion was, because one of these words is important to you, you're going to get people nodding along. It would be very hard for a lot of people to disagree with any of these core values here. These can be your shared values. So again, we've covered the first two. I feel angry because freedom is important to me. So now it's your turn. Think about putting those two things together. So think about think about an issue or policy, but don't write the issue or policy. Dig beyond that to the core value underneath. And one word, with one word of a value then that is important to you. And I'll leave these up just in case you want to refer to them. Like I said, this is not at all an exhaustive list of values, but go ahead and chat and share with us that you already shared your feeling. Well, now think about a core value tied to an issue or policy that you're very passionate about. And it's one word. Pick a word. And go ahead, Terry and Jenny, if you want to list them off.
Typing mine in, I put in, like I used to say, I feel, oh, let's listen to, Zach wrote one here. I feel exhausted because folks seem unwilling to listen about the problems we are facing. And I was saying, I feel tired because I believe in fairness, and that, there's legislation that's not treating all families fairly.
And we're seeing a lot on integrity and empathy. And we actually had a question back up, and that is passion a value?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Integrity is a great one,
What, I mean, if you think of, having passion is important to you, the opposite of that is being apathetic and not caring, right? I would argue then that having passion is a very core of representative democracy, where it's all about participation, all about caring.
Yeah, like I'm passionate about voter registration, or passionate about voting rights.
And we have, Ina has mentioned, she says, I feel incredulous because voting rights are not being protected. So just what you're saying, it's like there's passion, and then there's like, why aren't people taking care of this?
Yeah.
I think progressives run into that a lot, incredulity, because we're always like, what do you mean you're going to do this thing that doesn't make sense? It's not right. It's always something we have to worry about. Yeah, Susan says, I'm passionate about getting out the vote. Integrity and truth. Yep. Yeah.
So a lot of these seem like they're steering towards democracy. I argue, use the word democracy. So one word. Democracy is important to me, right? So again, you're looking for that head nod. You're looking to avoid the specifics, keep it nice and broad and to that core. So keep it simple. So you can simply say, to start off your conversation, just say democracy is important to me. I personally think we need to talk about that more. It's something that I think goes rather implied. And, I think that could be part of the reason why we can feel it slipping away. So I advocate actually using the word democracy and saying it is important to you. All right, any others? Any others?
Michelle just added that I want to trust that everyone is not only out for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is just a great way to engage someone, is to assume that they also want something good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a big advocate of not letting anything go assumed. Say it. Say it. So that's why we're starting this off by one, the feelings, right? Don't let people assume how you feel. Say it, put words to it. And then for those core values, don't let people assume you care about democracy. Say, I care about democracy. Don't let people assume that you care about other people. Say, compassion is very important to me. Community is very important to me. Working together is very important to me. So, these basics, we need to be saying those right off the bat. That is what's going to connect us together, is just using those basics, getting that head nodding right at the very beginning, right? If this is a script, we're saying it right at the very beginning. So you're getting that head nodding going along. All right, so we got 2 of the lines down. Now we got to go into story. That last piece of the short little script that we're sharing is to talk about why this is important to you personally. What happened in your life? When did you feel these values? When did this form? What's going on right now? How when you hear an issue, how is that issue affecting your personal life? How's it walking into your home, into your body, into your wallet? And this is being vulnerable. This is opening up and sharing something personal, not talking about a theory, not talking about something you saw on MSNBC. This is talking about your personal story. And this is hard. This is hard to open up, especially if you're opening up to people that you're not accustomed to speaking in such personal terms with. I understand that it can be hard to speak personally that way. It also makes it hard to think about politics this way, because this is not a way that we're used to hearing about politics. Most people are used to hearing pundits talk on TV or presidential candidates talk on a debate stage. They're not used to hearing people talk about how politics then is translated into their personal lives. But that's how we're going to reach out to people and get them to care about politics. There's a lot of apathetic voters out there. And it's how we get people who may be only thinking in terms of talking points to actually see what this means. What is the real world underneath there? Not just the charades from TV and Facebook. It's like, what's the real stuff underneath? And that's the power. That is that power of telling that story and making that translation. And, we hear a lot that, the Democratic Party is really bad at messaging. Well, it's like this messaging, this core messaging, the stuff that's really going to make a connection person to person can only come from you. You talking to people that and you sharing that personal story is the most powerful thing that the Democrats can have, the most powerful messenger, and that is you. So taking that time to really be thinking, how does this issue affect me personally? You don't have to have the best story in the world, right? You don't need to make people weep with the beauty of your story. It just needs to be authentic, just needs to be real. So just talk about, even if it's some small way. I was thinking the other day, so I'm in South Bend, Indiana, and there's this issue going on with funding for housing the homeless. And, I'm very fortunate. I don't have, I'm not a threat of myself being homeless, nor do I know anybody who is homeless. So how is that personal to me? Well, I mean, it could be a very small way, but I have a lot of pride in place. I like how clean the city is. I don't like seeing homeless people on the streets in the winter, right? So that's how it affects me personally. Is that the most beautiful personal story? No, but it is how it affects me personally. And I do have compassion for that. And I do want to see, you know, the city continue to prosper, and, you know, having nice, clean streets will do that. So like I said, not the perfect story, but making it personal. And then also the things to avoid when you're thinking about sharing that personal story. Again, you want to be able to tell a story that everybody is going to hear, is going to understand, that they're going to hear, that they're going to know is true. You want to get that head nodding. This is right at the beginning of when you're talking to them. You just shared feelings. You just shared this common core value, right? And now you're sharing your personal story. So the things you want to avoid are the things that will inherently pull us apart. So, you know, we as Americans, we got two moral systems. You got conservatives and progressives. And, you know, our brains are wired differently. They just are. And that means that we interpret facts differently, and we interpret logic differently. So if you go into, you know, to talk to someone right off the bat, and you're using facts, you're using logic, right away, you are creating a separation. There's going to be a good percentage of the population that isn't going to understand what you're saying, and they're never going to understand what you're saying. They're not even going to hear you. They won't even they won't even listen. And then also we got those different senses of morality. So if you're talking about anything in terms of morality, you know, it's not going to translate across the board. You want to use that common language. The common language, we've already talked. Values, those core values are something that everybody understands, those feelings people understand, and then this story. So when you're thinking about that story, like I said, make it very personal, and be you know, grounding it with those core values. So let's finish off this with a way that an issue then affects me. So we were using that issue of economic inequality, right? So I feel angry because freedom is important to me. And this affects my life because working full-time does not pay my child enough to even afford their own rent, and let alone a chance for them to live, you know, that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. They cannot live that life of their choosing. And like I said, that is, for me, that is against that core principle, the core value that I have of freedom. So that is finding a way that economic inequality affects me personally. We're talking about my child, not being able to pay their full rent. And then it can go a little bit further. I mean, you know, I could take that further and say, you know, if my kid can't pay rent, who's paying it? Me. That's not right either, right? That is personal to me as well, that, you know, my kid is successful, they're working hard, they're doing everything right. You know, I did everything right as a parent, right? I raised them, they're doing everything right. And yet I don't have then that full freedom to see my kid, you know, be fully independent. So again, not the most perfect story, but it's my story, and that makes it powerful. All right, so now we got the last two steps here, where you then turn it to show how it is then reflected in a campaign. And then the fourth one is to make the ask, to invite people to show that there's something going on right now that they can do to help out. So I'm just going to quickly give this as an example. So we've already gone over this, the first three parts. So I feel angry because freedom is important to me, and working full time does not even pay my child enough to afford their rent, let alone a chance to live a life they're choosing. But that is why I support, and this came from Colorado, what up my Colorado peeps, that is why I support Joe Neguse as my representative, because he is standing with my child as they strike and demand higher wages. And I am volunteering for Joe to go door to door. Will you go with me? Right. And all that is true. So Joe is so the grocery, my kid works at the grocery store, grocery workers striked, and there Joe was out, on the picket lines, supporting supporting my kids. So I'm like, that man has my vote. Right. He has my vote. And then what can I do for him? Right. What can I do to help Joe's campaign, and then inviting others along. So you find what you're going to do for the campaign, no matter what you're doing. If you're not even knocking doors, let's say, hey, I just make it a point that whenever I see Joe tweet, I retweet it. Will you do that with me? Will you also retweet whenever you see and amplify his social media? It could be a small ask, but ask people to come along with you. And one little thing that I like to do is no matter how the conversation goes, let's say the person doesn't seem really interested in what I'm saying, still make that ask. Still make the ask. You never know. And people need to be asked over and over and over again for them to actually participate. So I like to just be one of those times, logging one of those times that someone made an ask to them to participate in democracy. So always add that ask to the end of your conversation. All right, now we're going to go on to the next organizing. So the organizing side of how to do this. So all of that work that we just did, all that work to articulate those values, articulate your story, articulate your why in that ask, all that work that we just did, I want you to take all of that, I want you to put it in your back pocket. That was your homework. That was step one of homework. You just want to have that ready to go. Now the next piece is homework as well. This is being organized. You got to step up. You got to be intentioned. You got to be organized in how you go out there and talk to people, because again, it's crunch time. We don't have a lot of time. So you want to make sure that you are going out and you're talking to everyone that you know, and you're doing it in an intentioned, organized way. So that means starting off, make a list of all the people that you know. I mean, everybody that you know. If you talk to, the barista at the cafe, shout out to Starbucks people. So you talk to the barista at your cafe, put them on your list, right? So even people that you normally wouldn't speak politics to, right? I include coworkers on that list, right? Family members, a family that spans the whole spectrum. They all go on there. I don't sit there and say, oh, well, they're very conservative, I'm not going to talk to them. No, I specifically speak to them. Everybody goes on that list. And then you want to make a plan to reach out and talk to each person. Now, these are people you're going to talk to them anyway. But this is being intentioned of, okay, next time I talk to this person, that homework in your back pocket, you're going to say it to them. You're going to say, I feel angry because freedom is important, right? You're going to say that. Put on a little bit of theater training so it doesn't sound so rehearsed. But yeah, you are going to be intentional. Okay, next time I talk to them, I'm going to say this, right? And then you want to keep track of those people that you talked to. Just like if you have worked on a campaign before and you made phone calls and you logged that data, or details of that. Okay, yes, I talked to that person. Okay, they were, back on Pete's campaign, we had little smiley faces. We picked the smiley face that reflected the emotion, right? However, you might have done that on campaigns. You want to do that for yourself. This is yourself. You're organizing your own people. You are your own organizer. You're not waiting for the party to hand you a walk list. This is your list. You can do this right now. You can do this today, is to write that down and keep track of how people responded, how those conversations went. And then you're going to, most importantly, make a plan to come back around and reach out to them again, because this kind of talking politics, this is planting a seed and then coming back to it later. This is planting a seed that politics is personal. This is planting a seed that, there are others, you're a Democrat, and it's like, we can talk in a way that we can connect, right? This is the slow work. This is, if you're talking to people that are apathetic, that they don't care, one conversation isn't going to make them care. So, you mention it one time, and you hopefully make some sort of a connection that first time, and then you come back around. to talk to them again. So let's figure out who to put on your list, right? I want you to write into chat, literally just write in the chat the name of the last adult person you spoke with, and then what is your relationship to that person? The last adult person you spoke with. So I got to think, who's the last adult? I
For
was,
me, it was my building manager here at my apartment building. Mhm. Yeah,
building manager.
yeah. Michelle says my trainer, Terry, my husband, and the guys at the next table to us at the restaurant.
Hey,
Becky, Shelley Brown said Becky, a fellow Democrat in Hamilton County. That's us. Nan, a friend, my husband, Rick, my husband, my sister, my husband, my mom, Shauna, just a friend, my optometrist, my daughter.
love it.
Yep.
So those people, they go on your list. That's on your list. For me, I was talking to a coworker. I get a bit of an out because he and I talk politics all the time, but still I was talking to one of my coworkers. So yeah, that they go on your list. So the point of this is to say that everyone there, you don't exclude anyone. You include everybody on your list, no matter what the relationship is. And I will say, anybody who mentioned a significant other, they definitely go on this list. Even if they are your brother in arms out there in politics, they definitely go on this list. All right, and when I talk about a list, I mean a list. So get out a piece of paper and write down a list. We actually, so this course has a workbook to go along with it. So all these step-by-step things you can do in workbook form as well. So you can walk step-by-step through the actions. And it has just you could just print it off a piece of paper. It is a list. So you can do it on a piece of paper, or if you're a spreadsheet nerd like me, you can do it on a spreadsheet. But yeah, you just make that list and you keep track of when you last talked to them. How did it go? So that way, next time you go to talk to that person, you can have a little refresher. And I personally, we'll get to this a little bit later at the very end. I don't like to talk politics every single time I talk to somebody. I purposely make sure to spread it out, because the worst thing is if my family, if my friends saw me come and are like, oh my gosh, here comes Kaz, she's going to talk politics. Right? Because then they're automatically not going to listen to me and it's going to hurt our relationship. So I purposely make sure that I do not talk politics every time I talk to them. I wait until something comes along that I'm like, oh, I want to talk to someone about this, right? And then I will come back around. But you know, I kind of keep track. Oh, it's been a little while since I talked to this person or that person about it. So I bring it up and it's just planting a little seed. I find, because I've been doing this for a while, what happens is that I become the person that people come to. So people at this point, a lot of people that I know, they must, you know, they must trust my insight or something like that. We got where I've done well to grow a very long list of people who will participate in democracy and understand when I'm speaking to them. So they actually seek me out. Usually, you know, it's hard for me to then avoid the political conversation because they usually come to me with it at this point. But like I said, I try to intentionally not do that. These are people you know, these are people you're in a relationship with. However the relationship is, you have other things that you have in common with that person in that relationship, right? Maybe, you know, you're both, I mean, okay, there's not too many LA Charger fans out there. I do know some, but then we talk about the Chargers, talk about football, right? Maybe you talk, you know, coworkers and some things at work. Maybe you're in, someone mentioned their trainer, right? Maybe you're both into fitness and self-care, and you talk about that. So you have things you already have in common. You have conversations with them where you purposefully bring to them, intentionally come and bring to them things that you think they're going to like, that you're going to be able to connect on. Politics is just one more. It is just one more thing that is going on in your life that you can bring to somebody, you can talk about in a way that you can then connect with that person. I like to say, politics is a very natural, normal part of our everyday, and we should speak about it that way. But you also then want to make sure that you're talking about those other things that bring you together. That's going to grow that trust. So when you talk about politics, they're going to listen to you. They're going to trust you more. So again, make that big long list, kind of keep track, especially if you're going to spread these conversations out a little more. There's also in there how to make your list. It might be a little daunting to sit down and to write a big long list. So you can just start with like 3 people who definitely 100%, they're super voters. They're definitely going to vote. You want to be talking to them and you want to be getting them to be supporting whoever your candidate is, all the way down to the people you've never spoken to politics to before. You don't even know if they're registered to vote. You also want to put them on your list. Obviously, those conversations might go a little bit different, but they should be the same. You talk about politics in the same way to everyone. And then I like to have my goal person, the person you wish would support your issue. So perhaps there's somebody who's just very apathetic. Perhaps there's somebody that on a political spectrum is very far away from you. Give yourself that goal person, because it feels really good when you're able to get, see a light come on in somebody over time. So I know I had a goal person and I have achieved my goal person. So I'm looking for a new goal person. I'm up to Indiana. Something tells me I'm going to meet a few. So, all right, now you got that list. Now you told yourself, you got your homework in your back pocket. You got your list of people. You made that commitment that next time I see this person, I'm going to pull this out of my back pocket. I'm going to talk about politics, right? Now you have to do it. Now you actually have to have that conversation. And it'd be kind of strange because these are people that that you probably talk to all the time. And now suddenly you want to be intentioned and you might get nervous, right? It's like, oh my gosh, how do I start that conversation? Well, the nice thing is you don't actually start the conversation. You actually don't want to do most of the talking. So yes, you have your homework in your back pocket. It's ready there whenever you need it. But you actually don't want to start with that. You can start with your feelings, but you want to be asking that person how they're feeling. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so angry. I'm so frustrated right now. How are you feeling right now? Right? And ask them, okay, what's something going on? What's something that's really important to you? You know how you did that digging down to talk about feelings and then a core value? You want to walk them through that same exercise. So just ask them, how are you feeling today? And then when they say how they're feeling, why are you feeling that way? What's going on? And let's say they say some sort of talking point or right-wing talking point. You want to not react. You want to stay open. You want to stay curious. You want them to be digging down. You want to find out why. Don't let them just say a talking point and then walk away. That is the way, that's pundits talking, right? That's presidential candidates talking. That's not the way that people talk to each other. So if somebody throws a talking point at you, what I want you to do, I want you to catch it, absorb it, and say, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. Soon as you say that, you're going to immediately open up this space. That you're taking them out of that normal rhythm. If they say something that they know is going to offend you, and then you say something offensive back, and then you go to your corners, you don't talk to you. That's what they're expecting. Instead, if they say something to you that you think they're looking to get a reaction out of you, and you don't react, and you say, oh, okay, I think I've heard that before, but tell me, what does that mean to you? You're opening up space. You're creating this instant, different dynamic. And in that space, that is where you can start to build that trust in that space, because you're going to listen to them. You're going to show that you're curious, that you're open, that you want to know how they're feeling. Why do they feel that way? Do that exercise, like I said, of digging down beyond just those feelings, just beyond that issue or policy they might be throwing at you, right? Ask them to go beyond that. A lot of times people have never been asked to do that. So it could be a very, just asking people more, asking people why it's important to them can be a very enlightening conversation for the person that you're talking to. So like I said, you want to dig it down and you want to get to the point that it feels like they are going beyond a talking point and they're actually sharing something personal. Because the basis of trust, the foundation of trust is that vulnerability. So that vulnerability you feel when you need to tell a personal story, you're not just talking, repeating something you saw in the news. Instead, you're talking about something that happened to you. That vulnerability, that is the foundation of trust. So if you can get the person that you're talking to start to go there, to be digging down and asking them to share something personal. Once they're sharing something personal, that's when you pull out your homework. That's when you say, well, I'm feeling this way because this is important to me. And then you tell that personal story. And then you get that nodding along. So in that space, you get them nodding along. And then after you feel like they've shared and then you've shared, then in that space, what you want to do is change the subject. You brought it up. Now you want to change the subject. Go back to something else that you have in common. The reason why you guys already like each other or know each other, right? Go back to that. You want to, again, be just establishing that trust. So your best way to do that is what you already have. You already have a relationship with this person. Go back to it. I mean, it can be something as simple. If you got nothing, just talk about the weather, right? Talk about a football game, something, come back to something, but you want to change the subject away from it because like I said, politics, normal part of our life. It should be a normal part of that relationship that you have with that person. So you want to be able to touch upon it, change the subject. And then again, importantly is at the end to making a commitment to come back around and reach out to them again. So again, starting that conversation might seem daunting, but just know you're not going to do a lot of the talking. You're going to do listening. You're going to ask them, how do you feel? Why is that important to you? Tell me more about that. Those kind of words. And that's called active listening. So these are the skills for to actively listen to people. So you're more of like almost moderating a conversation. You want them to, like I said before, do that digging down. You want them to get deeper, right? If they say something to you, show that you're curious by asking, oh, tell me more about that. How does that relate to you? How did that make you feel? Let's say somebody's very agitated and, they're very loud and agitated. Speak to that. Say that you see that, saying, oh, wow, you seem very passionate about this. Try to see them, recognize them, and then say, oh, why, can you tell me what you're feeling right now? Why are you so passionate about this? What's going on in your life that is making this, so important to you? So again, you're doing these kind of skills to keep that person talking, moderate them, and get them to really dig down. So this is the active listening guide. I really recommend, especially when I am doing direct voter engagement, like, phone bank or something, I just have this printed off. I just keep it by my side because these are habits. Active listening is a habit. It's muscle memory. And the more you get used to it, the more you can say it in those moments, especially if people are coming at you and they're very agitated or if it's super awkward, right? In those moments, if you can have good muscle memory for what to say, how to respond, you are going to be able to stay in control of that conversation. You'll be more comfortable. And I find in doing this, you're showing that person this respect, you're building that trust. It's having these kind of these kind of habits set. This is how you see those light bulbs come on in people's eyes, that it's like, oh, this person, okay, maybe they're a Democrat, but they really do seem to care. Oh, okay, I can really connect with this person. They seem like they care about me, right? These are those good habits that are going to have you having those very effective conversations. So again, this is it's in the workbook. It's also on our website. So yeah, I highly recommend reading this and finding the ones that work for you. Not everybody's response, like my go-to response is to be like, oh, wow, I think I've heard that before, but tell me what it means to you. Oh, wow, that's really interesting. You seem really passionate. I have little, they're almost like ticks now, that I just I just say. So you'll develop your own. Also little things like nodding along and saying, okay, little words like that to show people that you're listening are important. And just being present, not being distracted. And people feel that even when we had somebody mention that they did a bunch of phone banking today. Even when you're on your phone, people can tell that you're paying attention. People can tell that you're smiling. Right? So getting in the habit of just smiling and being positive and bringing that to those conversations really make a difference. And that's all different ways to be practicing active listening. So give yourself some grace. It's hard, a lot of these to get these habits down. So you're not going to do it right. I still mess up. I still get flustered. It still happens. So yeah, give yourself some grace that this kind of, having these kind of conversations can be hard. Sometimes conversations get off the rails, and try and moderate it and just goes off the rails, it's like, give yourself grace. This stuff is hard. But if you start to get these habits down, like you said, you'll find yourself having some really good conversations. And we've mentioned this already, but I just want to reiterate, a lot of being able to go out there and have those conversations is if you have confidence in having those conversations. So I want to go over again something that might be making you feel like you said, okay, I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to go out. I'm going to have that conversation with somebody. We're going to bring it up in conversation. And then if you're nervous in that moment, if you don't have that confidence in the moment, it might be because you're afraid of the tension that might come up, right? Either the tension from them pushing back, or the tension of it being awkward, being like, why are you talking about that? Right? So in both cases, whenever you do feel any tension, another piece of muscle memory is to fight that instinct to defend. So again, if they're pushing on you, your natural reaction is to push back. You want to instead go into that knowing that, okay, I'm going to have this natural reaction to push back, but I'm not going to. Instead, they're going to push on me and I am going to absorb it. I'm going to take it in and I'm going to say, tell me more about that. So even if they say, why are you asking me about this? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, what are you thinking? Why? Tell me what's going on, right? So be handing the microphone over to them, getting them to keep talking. Remember not to use those facts or logic. If you start having a back and forth, stay with your feelings, stay with your core values, stay with your story. Don't fall back on facts or logic or morals. That's just going to divide you. So stick with those feelings, stick with those core values. Also, the subject of the story should either be yourself or someone you know, not some story you read online, right? No matter how good that meme was, it needs to be you or someone that you know. That is going to be a story that no matter who you're talking to, they're going to understand why it's important to you. And a really important one at the end is to always give yourself permission to walk away, right? I like to say it's just politics. Don't let it ruin your relationship. Don't make yourself feel like you might be in danger. Just give yourself permission to walk away. And the last one, we've already mentioned this, is you want to be, just planting that seed and walk away. Sometimes you don't even get to plant the seeds. Sometimes you are just starting to till that soil, right? So, but keep at it. Repetition over and over and over again is what is going to break through to that person. So just keep being intentional, coming back and saying it over and over and over again. And then on the other side, let's say you were having the best conversation of your life, right? Somebody you don't talk politics to, suddenly you're talking politics with them and it's just the best conversation of your life. Still limit that conversation to 20 minutes and then change the subject. So always just politics, like I said, it's a natural part of our life. It's not, even me, as much time as I spend doing it's not everything. So try to limit that political talk to 20 minutes at a time. All right, so that is our unlock your political power. That is those 3 pieces. So getting that homework ready so you know how to articulate your story, making your list of people to talk to, and then going out there and actively listening and having those conversations over time. So this is the foundation. Those principles are the foundation to the entire Power series that we offer. So on next Tuesday, we're taking these same concepts and we're applying them to when you're doing direct voter contact for a campaign. So when you're making phone calls, text banking, knocking on doors, anything like that. So this was talking to people you know. Next week is taking those same principles and applying it to people you don't know.